The following is a production of Learfield Sports.
Well, it's the best time of the year because spring is here, but it's the worst time of the year because the Wisconsin hockey season is now over. I'm Brian Posick, radio voice for the Badgers, and when we come back, we'll hear from Coach Mike Eaves and recap the Big Ten tournament and the 2014-15 season. Stay tuned.
LeBate kind of cut and came up with a puck. Bowling pass. He finds Rockwood, who scores. Oh, Joseph LeBate. Heads up play. Taking the puck from Jardine. Tripped up in the corner and slid the pass in the slot. Rockwood there. Buried it. 3-2 Wisconsin. Giving chase now, Bessie. Did he get it free from Holland? He does. Back behind the net on the backhand. Sets up a man. Badgers score. Kevin Shows. He had been struggling handling the puck, but the last 2 or 3 shifts he's been much better. He's been missing the net with his shot, so set up somebody else, and this time it's Kevin Shows.
The Badger Hockey Digest is brought to you by Charter Communications.
Anyone can get service in town, but US Cellular offers 4G LTE where you just wouldn't expect it. So you can watch your shows. Way out here! Stream your music. Way out here! Or check Facebook. Way Whoa! Way out here. Pretty awesome, huh? With US Cellular, now the middle of nowhere is the middle of anywhere.
Well, Mike, as we start our final conversation of the 2014-15 season, one phrase just keeps coming to mind. If it weren't for bad luck, you'd have no luck at all. And that seemed to be the case in the Big Ten tournament quarterfinals against Michigan. Their first 3 goals, direct result of a puck going off of one of your players and into the back of the net.
Yeah, it was kind of a micronism of our season. The gentleman that was standing in between the 2 benches, Fred Plesh came over, and after it was 2-0, he said, "Well, that's kind of how your season's been going." And it made me laugh because I said, "Well, a little bit." But as I said to him, we looked up at the clock, and we were playing better at that time. We were, we ended up out shooting Michigan, but we hanging around, got a goal to make it 3-1, and then we had the 5-on-3, and we put the puck in the hands of our best player, and he broke his stick, on a one-timer shot. And I can't say enough about what. Young Bessie did, Grant, and young Cameron Hughes did that game, because Grant was basically playing on one leg, and Cameron was skating around playing with one arm, and they just, it was a chance to play one more game and extend our season. They did a great job, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before too, just the heart of a hockey player. And, Cameron could barely straighten his right arm, and we saw Grant trying to skate around, and he just didn't have that get up and go. I mean, skating is such a big part of his game.
Well, that's the foundation of any hockey player's game, and gets you in position. He had about 3 or 4 really good looks, but he couldn't get his lower body into the shot. But both those kids were there for their teammates, and that is probably the underlying thing about this whole season, that through our tough times, these young people hung in there. I think with the leadership of this coaching staff, the leadership of the formal guys, the captains, that there was never a moment that they quit on each other. And much like we've talked about the Apollo 13 movie, it was a successful failure because of the fact that I've been on teams where when things don't go well during the course of the season, players will fall apart and start doing their own thing and kind of quit on each other.
Bicker and everything,
and it's miserable. But this group, right down to the end, did not do that. They stayed together, and they went down on their terms. We talked about those movies, 300 and The Last Samurai. There wasn't a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. But what they did in those movies is they went down on their terms. They fought to the very end, and when our young men left the rink that night, they could leave with their head held high, and that means a lot. I mean, they just never quit, and it was a most unusual group because of the adversity they had. They did themselves proud.
Yep. The young players on this squad learned a lesson from the 6 seniors. More about the seniors and what's to come in just a moment.
or salad, drizzled with some olive oil and topped with a dash of salt and pepper will make it nice.
It's funny how seeing a clearer picture can lead you to see the bigger one. Get the most HD channels and the fastest internet on the most advanced fiber network. Charter Spectrum. Where will it take you?
Some call it a miracle. Others call it science. But for those who've needed a kidney transplant like Kelly Krager, they simply call it a new lease on life. For nearly 5 decades, UW Health and the University of Wisconsin have been national leaders in the field of kidney transplant, providing a new life for recipients and assuring a normal life for living donors. Miracle? Science? Maybe it's a little bit of both. UW Health. Remarkable.
Well, in the closing moments of that Big Ten tournament game in Detroit last Thursday, Mike Eaves and his coaching staff put out, 5 of the 6 seniors. Otherwise, Landon Peterson would have been out there, too, with 2 goaltenders on the ice. I thought that was a nice gesture on your part.
Well, it was something we could do. The game was a little bit out of reach, and it was a nice thing for them to be able to know that they were on the last seconds of their senior year on the ice, and hopefully that'll be something they'll carry with them.
Yeah. As we look ahead to next season, because that's what we do, you've got a lot of good pieces coming back. And I tell you, the freshmen or the 13 first-year players that got so much experience this year, that's going to bode well for them in the future.
It is. They were probably in situations they shouldn't have been in because of their age, but we had no choice, and we made a decision that. Brian, you've watched us for 13 years. This is the first year that we had 3 freshman center icemen, and we stayed with it right from the get-go almost. And so they got some unbelievable experience that'll bode well for them coming up next year, and they'll be further along the curve for sure.
Yep. Yeah, you look at Cameron Hughes, Adam Rockwood, and Ryan Wagner. Each brings different things to the table, but you can see the gifts for sure of Hughes and Rockwood, just what they can do with the puck, the vision they have, and then just the tenacity of Ryan Wagner is going to be a benefit for him.
They're 18, 19 years old. They're young people. I mean, if you think about it, Cameron Hughes could be playing high school hockey if he was down here in the States. And I think in talking to the pro scouts about him, when they watch him, they have to remind themselves of that. Like, look at this young man and what he's doing against 20, 23, 24-year-olds. And he's only 18 years old. He could be playing high school hockey. So, he did himself well. Rocky has got many gifts. He just got to learn when to use them at the right time. And you're right, Wags is a tough little nut to play against. And I can't remember how many times he knocked guys that were way bigger than himself on his backside. So, and all the valuable experience that our young defensive core, we had sometimes 4 freshman defensemen playing. So some valuable lessons were learned this past year that'll serve us well in the future.
Yeah, and only 2 seniors next year, too. Both defensemen, Kevin Scholes and Eddie Whitko. Good place to start.
It is, and they'll be the backbone of our team, and they've won a couple championships. They lived through this year, so I know that they would like to have things end differently, and there's good chances that we're going to take big steps next year.
Yeah, and you bring in a 6-man recruiting class for now, one of which is Luka Pilka, who's a goaltender with a national team development program, along with Gabe Grunwald and the returning goaltenders too. That'll be a question for sure going into next season.
It is, but it's less of a question in some ways because we've had Gabe here, and he's been working with Jeff Sanger. And I know in practice, Gabe has gotten tremendously better, and that's a good thing. That'll bode well for him. We'll have good competition. Luke comes in as a freshman, but he's played maybe 20 games against colleges already. Big, athletic. They're going to have to prove themselves, but there are good reasons to have good hopes for those 2 young men.
All right, and before I let you go, you're going through the individual interviewing process with your players. We all know this was a tough season. What was it like for you as a professional? You take so much pride in this.
Well, I think being older, we've been through this before, Brian. This is not the first dance that has gone like this for us. We've been here. It's interesting. When I was a player, I played on the worst Badger hockey record here, our sophomore year. Our first-year coach was the worst record ever. If you take a look at what happened after those years, as a sophomore, we won our junior year and went back to the finals in our senior year. When we came here as a coach, it was within 4 years that we were at the national tournament and we won. So this flux is how we grow and develop. It's like the seasons of life, and we've been here before. Not as bad as this, and most assuredly this is the most losses, but with this group of kids, it was still fun to come to the rink because there was hope, They work their fannies off. And, you know, the last thing I want to say about this whole thing is the fact that our fans were tremendous. I mean, I talked to Joseph LeBate yesterday, and he said the connection they had with the fans in his last game. Our son Ben was here for senior night, and, you know, he couldn't believe the number of people that were here with our record. He said that would have never happened at BC. And the fact that even Joseph commented about this when we walked off the ice, there was no booing, there was no jeers. People got it. They saw a young team that worked hard, got better, and they appreciated that, and they know good things are coming. So to our fans, we thank you for your support, and we look forward to next year. Good things are going to happen.
I do too. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Brian.
Sure, that's Badgers head coach Mike Eaves. I'm Brian Posick. Wisconsin opened the 2015-16 season at the Kohl Center October 9th and 10th against Northern Michigan. Thanks for watching the Badger Hockey Digest.